Lisa and Cody are looking forward to the arrival of a new baby just 3 months away. But one evening in late August, Lisa starts to feel unwell.
I had a stuffy nose and a scratchy throat, and I wasn't feeling great. Colds are fairly common in South Louisiana, so I wasn't concerned.
Cody goes to work the night shift, and Lisa takes flu medication before going to bed.
About 2 hours after taking medication, I woke up still feeling feverish. I took my temperature again, and it was now 104. When I realized that the medication was not bringing my fever down, I became very scared.
At this stage in her pregnancy, the fever could put Lisa's baby at risk. She decides to go to the hospital.
She called me and she said, "Mom, I need you to meet me at the hospital." And she kept coughing, all through the conversation.
When Lisa arrives, the doctors see her immediately.
My exhaustion was so severe that it literally took everything I had to tell the doctors I needed something to drink.
The doctors suspect Lisa has pneumonia and make a drastic decision about her care.
It was about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and her OB was called, and he told them to go ahead and admit her. I had to call Cody on the phone that night, and I told him, I said, "Cody, you need to leave and come up here." I mean, it was like, it was just impossible that she could be this sick this fast.
For 2 days, the doctors treat Lisa with antibiotics. But by the 3rd day, Lisa still isn't responding to the treatment. Her doctors are puzzled and run some tests to determine the cause of the infection.
Lisa's oxygen level had dropped down to 60, and it should have been in the high 90s. They told me they were taking her downstairs, putting her in ICU, and that they were going to intubate her.
Lisa's lungs have become so filled with fluid, she can no longer breathe on her own.
I was so exhausted that I told my doctors I didn't want to breathe anymore. And after that, everything goes blank for me.
She was fighting the machine really hard. It really shook me up emotionally.
And Lisa isn't their only concern. Unable to get the infection under control, Lisa's doctors think her baby could be at risk. The next morning, Lisa's contractions start.
No matter what the doctors did, my body was not receiving enough oxygen, so essentially I started to reject the pregnancy.
When the doctor came in, he said, "If she doesn't stop the contractions, I'm going to have to take the baby." And I was like, "No way," because she's 26 weeks pregnant. You can't take the baby. And he turned around and he said, "I'll have to take the baby."
Despite the family's concerns, the doctors operate immediately.
He said, "The infection is too bad. We could lose Lisa, or we can take the baby. And that way they both have a chance." I was freaking out.
Within 10 minutes, the premature newborn is on life support.
We couldn't hold him or see him, but we could stand in the hallway while they rolled him to another room. He was in a plastic bag to keep his body temperature up and hooked up to all these monitors.
The baby weighed 3 pounds, 2 ounces. He was so tiny, he was almost transparent. They had told me that he would probably be blind. He would have a hole in his heart. I just couldn't accept it. I just couldn't accept it.
They had said that, his chance of survival was basically 50-50. Seeing him for the first time, I never would have imagined how something that small and can survive.
As the baby fights for his life, doctors turn their attention to Lisa. But the day after her early cesarean, doctors uncover another problem.
Lisa's doctor said that she had ran into some more complications. They explained to us that her lungs were filling with fluid and that her oxygen level was decreasing lower than it had been before.
Dr. Barrero and her colleagues start by extracting liquid from Lisa's lungs to see if it contains any clues to what is making Lisa sick. 2 days later, Dr. Barrero gets the results.
When they sat down and looked at us, I mean, you could tell by the grave look on their faces that what they had to say was not good. That was probably the only time that I just thought, you know, God, what happened?
I came across a serious illness that was causing all the problems Lisa was going through.
The infectious disease doctor told us that what Lisa had was called Acinetobacter baumannii.
Acinetobacter baumannii is a deadly bacteria that preys on people with weak immune systems. The bacteria enters the body through breaks in the skin or mucous membranes and often migrates to the lungs and respiratory system. Inside Lisa's body, the bacteria have been secreting toxins, killing her cells one by one and severely damaging her lungs.
Acinetobacter baumannii is a microbe that lives mostly in aquatic environments. But in recent years, it has emerged as one of the most deadly superbugs on the planet. Because the bacteria are resistant to most antibiotics, doctors are often powerless to stop it.
Because of the multi-drug resistant pattern of this bacteria in particular, her life was definitely at risk.
Doctors told us that Lisa had a 2% chance of living.
Lisa's mother thinks she might know how her daughter contracted the deadly superbug.
I had heard about Acinetobacter baumannii because my son was in Iraq. And that's when they told me, you know, they call it the Iraqi bacteria. So I'm thinking, oh my God, did he bring it in my house?
Acinetobacter baumannii is a bacteria often called Iraqibacter because it's affected military personnel in Iraq. But it's also known to exist in hospitals all over the world, and it can infect patients even in carefully controlled environments.
Lisa may have only had a simple flu virus when she first got sick, but her decreased immunity left her vulnerable to a secondary infection. Now, she's fighting for her life.
Lisa was just being torn up by this bacteria.
It felt like we had hit rock bottom. We thought we'd never get Lisa back. We were trying to bring ourselves to the point where we'd have to accept that.
To make matters worse, one of the only drugs known to combat Acinetobacter is a medication called polymyxin, which can have devastating side effects.
You know, at some point, you just think it can't be any worse.
For weeks, Lisa undergoes the punishing treatment. Then, as her condition slowly improves, she is taken off the ventilator. And something wonderful happens.
We were sitting in her room, and she began to kind of stir around. She opened her eyes, and she looked at Cody, and she said, "Where's my baby?"
I didn't really understand where I was or what was going on, but I knew that I wasn't pregnant anymore.
She started crying, and I had told her that they had to take the baby.
And so Cody grabs my hand and he says, his name is Carson. And I said, how old is he? He said that Carson is 2 months old. And I started to cry.
Despite his premature birth at 6 months, Carson is healthy. And 3 weeks later, Lisa meets him for the first time.